Yeah. How about some basketball, though? Let's see. We talked earlier a little bit about what did I mention? Oh, yeah. Drew Timme coming. Well, Drew Timme coming back to Gonzaga. Michigan losing some valuable pieces to their party.
Yeah, Musa Diabate and Caleb Houston, I believe. Caleb Houston both entering or keeping their name in the NBA draft. So Michigan, and I don't know if anybody, I mean, to me, now you look at Indiana, the Big Ten, to me, is within grasp. You look at the amount of talent that's coming back to Indiana, plus the talent that they're bringing in.
And experience.
I mean, you look at how many Purdue lost Isaiah Thompson and Eric Hunter, the transfer portal. Jaden Ivey went pro. They lost Sasha Stefanovic. Michigan basically has Hunter Dickinson coming back. I'm sure there's another guy on that roster that I'm not thinking of. Michigan State lost some guys to the NBA draft and the transfer portal. Iowa, Keegan Murray is gone. Joe Toussaint entered the transfer portal. Illinois lost a lot. Andre Curbelo, Kofi Coburn, Jacob Granderson. Every team has been affected from the Big Ten in the NBA draft or the NCAA transfer portal. And usually that's not completely uncommon. But think about all the pieces that came back these past 2 years. Indiana really lacked that experience because everybody else was the more experienced team, the more talented team. Now Indiana's kind of the top dog. I mean, I don't want to say they're the favorite to win the Big Ten in Mike Woodson's second season, but they might be.
They very well could end up being that. And it's hard to say that with a team that has such a big question mark in the shooting category. But they are going to be very talented and very experienced. So you cannot discount that. And they're going to be so at a level that supersedes most of the other teams. I'll have to wait to see how it ultimately shakes out for Michigan, but I thought that they were going to be maybe the favorite, one of the co-favorites with Indiana. But this definitely affects that.
Well, they probably, I mean, when you talk about favorites, they'll probably still be up there. But in terms of, I mean, I think everybody thought Michigan was going to have the talent and the pieces, the 1-2 punch with Diabate and Dickinson to be the force in the Big Ten. But with one of those guys leaving, I mean, that it now puts it at a huge question mark. So, again, you look at the experience and the talent that Indiana not only is returning, but then is bringing in, particularly through recruiting. I think right now, if you look at the way too early stuff and there's obviously some transfer portal stuff that could happen. It's hard for me to imagine they're not going to finish in the top 3 of the Big Ten. You never know because every year there's always a favorite in the Big Ten that you think is going to win and they're the clear-cut favorite and they end up not. But outside of the top 3, in my opinion, even in the second year under Mike Woodson, if you're outside of that, I think it's a bit of a disappointment, right? Is that fair?
Well, absolutely. But I think that they are. There's no question. Trust me, I'm as hard and as honest as anybody on them. And last year I knew that they weren't in that upper echelon yet. Mm-hmm. Now they are. They are in that upper echelon. They are going to be one of the top 3. If there's 3, if I don't know that there will be, maybe there's 4. I don't know. I don't see 4 coming, but maybe there's just 2. I don't know. Maybe it's Indiana, Michigan. Maybe it's Purdue. I don't know yet until we get closer. But I do know one thing. Indiana is a team that is in that conversation. They are without question. And this is not something I would have said last year. But they were definitely going to be a team to be looked at to be a co-Big Ten favorite next year.
Well, don't leave out Wisconsin because somehow, some way, some shape, some form, Greg Gard is going to have Wisconsin in that conversation at some point. Even though they're always predicted to finish last, they seem to always be in the top 4. But let me tell you, the other thing about this is, think about how important that Big Ten tournament run is now for Indiana. Now those guys have that taste of that experience. They have that taste of getting to the NCAA tournament, winning a game. having a chance to win the Big Ten tournament. I mean, they were a last-second shot, a miracle shot from Jordan Bohannon away from at least getting to the championship game. So that experience, having that taste where they're in the NCAA tournament, where they're competing for a Big Ten tournament title, I think that fuels the fire. I think that gave them some momentum.
Oh, there's no question. It gave them the confidence that, yes, we are this good. Yes, we can play at this level. Yes, we should play at this level. Yes, we need to play at this level. Yes, we need to beat these kinds of teams instead of losing in these kinds of games. But they had too many that were so close last season. Last season was this close to being completely different in a very positive way. But that's, ifs and nuts and candy and all that good stuff. You know what that means. But Chris asking, I wonder how they'll do against Kansas and Arizona. Well, we'll have to wait to find out to December. But that's going to be an early indication of where they are. Because that's competing against the big boys on the big stages, which they have not had really an opportunity to do yet under Mike Woodson. The NCAA tournament, maybe, I guess, is the closest you'd say to that. Also playing in the was it the Emerald Classic?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. But
just really expanding everything. And we don't know who their opponent for the Gavitt games and the ACC is going to be. So this could be an unbelievably exciting season for Indiana.
Well, let me say this too. That's the games against Kansas and Arizona are going to be incredibly fun for the fans, but you can't read too much in. And the reason being is because look at what happened last year with Purdue. They beat North Carolina. They beat Villanova. Both those teams went to the Final Four. Purdue got beat by St. Peter's in the Sweet 16. So win or lose that game, you can say, yeah, it's a measuring stick. Yeah, it's great we won, or it sucks that we lost. But in the grand scheme of things, that is not an indication necessarily of how that season's going to go. Obviously, you want to beat the reigning national champion. Obviously, you want to beat a team that's up and coming like Arizona, and they played so well last year. They were top of the Pac-12. You want to win those games, but especially when they're being played in December, don't read too much into those games because it's not necessarily an indication of where your team's going to go.
Well, here's an incredible stat that Ross put up. Indiana has 78% of its starter minutes returning, second only to Virginia nationally. That's the experience I'm talking about. But of course, then you can say, well, we can look what the starters did last year. They still have to improve. There's still room for improvement. Those other minutes there, that's going to be committee minutes. I mean, that means that you relied a lot on your starters too. So right. Hopefully they're going to be able to dilute some of that with the talent. Like I've said also, last year when he would bring a lot of guys in, there was a bigger drop than this year is going to be. This year, that drop is a lot less noticeable. Now, Malik Renaud, someone like that, he's a freshman, man. We don't know. You still have to get him up to speed, and this is the college game. I know he played in an upper level, but, hey, he's got to get in there and mix it up. And Geronimo's got to improve. He's got to improve his shooting. Got to improve his offensive game. I think he's someone that should be able to create off the dribble, but he's had trouble controlling with the ball. So if he could do that with his game, man, he would be an unbelievably dangerous player. But, what's Trey Galloway? What's he going to do? But they have to just be a team that is probably a little more committee oriented. I'm thinking with the numbers they're going to have next year.
Well, they're going to be incredibly deep. And so that's a positive thing. And the other thing too, is when you are that deep, you can shift your lineups on a game by game basis. You can't, if you need Trey Galloway to play against, if you need him to play against Wisconsin and get 12 minutes, he can do that. If you need somebody else to come in and give you 15 minutes and you're not playing Trey Galloway, that's what that depth. You can customize your lineup, or you can customize your rotations to specific games. And I know that coaches tend to tighten it up and they want to stick with 8 to 10 guys. But to me, you want to get as many guys on the floor as possible in those type of situations. I don't think Indiana's a team that's superior talented where you can just throw out 7 or 8 guys and go out and make a championship run. I think you're going to have to still play a little bit of chess with your rotations. So having that depth is a huge help in that department.
If they had a pure knockdown shooter, I would throw them in that category, but they don't. So I agree with you.
I would say, I agree. At the same time, I think if we'll see what Trace Jackson Davis can do, because if he can develop some sort of jump shot, that is not going to happen. That is not going to happen. I'm just saying. But that would, to me, I could put them in that category if they had a sharpshooter and he was able to do that.
I say that's not going to happen, and that's not true. I should not. I take that back. It can. That's up to Trace. It's not. He just has to get out there and shoot, and I think that they're going to almost ultimately force him to do that this year. I think Mike Woodson is going to somehow force him. I think they'll run plays. They'll do whatever it takes to get that done. But I do think that to make that offense as dynamic and as challenging as possible, that has to be a part of it. You've got to get him away from the basket.
And to me, why not do it early in the season when you're playing some of those cupcake games?
Yes.
Get him 6 to 8 jumpers around from the free throw line extended. If he misses them, big deal. If he ends the night with 4 points, who cares? You're going to win those games by 25, 30 points anyway, if not more. So try to develop that. Get him comfortable shooting those. So when you do have to play those big-time teams, when you do have to play Kansas, Arizona, Purdue, Wisconsin, Iowa, he gets more comfortable in those situations.
Heck, if you want to really make it difficult on him, I'd say just put him at point guard. Let him bring the ball up the floor, handle the ball. Put in those early games. I'm halfway joking, but I'm kind of not either. It is a great way of getting, and the only way of getting someone more comfortable in a game type situation, because you cannot simulate game situations in practice. You can't do that in your head. That's the biggest thing. You can, simulate the situation itself as far as physicality of players, but the person, Trace Jackson Davis cannot get that in his head on what that's going to be like when he is doing that. So I think that I was just saying, Dustin, I think it wouldn't even be off to me to let him play point guard for a minute, for a couple minutes in those early games, just to force him to get uncomfortable, to be uncomfortable. How many times last year did you watch the big, oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank? Chet Holmgren. I saw him bring the ball up the floor, this 7-foot dude.
Right.
And so let him just to not, I don't want him to be uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? Put him in that position to where he has got to get, he's not comfortable right now. He doesn't have the confidence. So, and you can't do it in practice. You cannot mimic in your mind mentally that situation. It's just not possible. For anybody that's competed knows that. You just can't. So I think they should do that. What the hell?
That's not a bad idea, honestly. Again, when he's just getting the ball in the low post and teams can double him, and they know what's coming, he's either going to have to kick out. And again, this is what's killed Indiana, because he'll kick out, and they don't, as you mentioned, they don't have a sharpshooter who is a guaranteed 3-pointer. So you need to have that sort of range. And again, do it early. Do it early in the season. Let him build confidence, and then. You know what? If he doesn't develop that shot, if he can't give you consistency, then at least you know. At least you know from that point what you're going to have to do and how you're going to have to scheme around it. But he's got to develop that. And I agree with you, Jim. He can't do it in practice. He's going to have to do it in the game. And to me, That's why you schedule some of these cupcakes. It's not just so you can win by 40 points. That's not boosting your NCAA tournament resume. It's to develop your guys to get them in these uncomfortable situations. And on the other side, it's a double positive. It's going to help Indiana in the long run. Second, it's going to help his draft stock. If he can knock down those shots, his draft stock will skyrocket from maybe not a lottery pick, but he could be top 20.
You never know.